Join the team.
Hey, this is the McGuire review, and let's take a look at the brand new Lords of Hellas. This is the core box, the core production retail box. We just went over Siege Storm. I did just do a video on that, so if you haven't seen Siege Storm yet, this is a brand new TCG from Awaken Realms. And I would even say it's brand new in its genre. I know there's a ton of these types of games that are out there, but this one does a fantastic job with its mechanics, and I highly, highly suggest checking this one out. I'm not a big fan of these types of games. I generally play more of the board game type of games, but I am a fan of Siege Storm. They did a great job with this card game. Go check it out. If you haven't seen the video, go watch that video. If you see this in the stores, pick it up. I highly recommend it, especially if you're into the card games. Okay, enough about Siege Storm. I will let it sit here just to pique your interest if you haven't seen that video yet, but I definitely recommend checking that out. Today, we want to get into the base retail of what you're going to get with Lords of Hellas. Now, the Kickstarter, again, if you were part of that, was off the charts. You got the sun drop technology, you got the unbelievable amount of miniatures and extra stuff that they added in for the price point of what you paid. I don't have to talk about that. If you were part of the Kickstarter, you know how
epic level
that was. So I definitely wanted to just show everybody what you would get if you found this game in the store from a straight up core box perspective. Okay, this is the terrain expansion. I highly recommend getting this if you do get the game. Otherwise, you're just going to have like some tokens and whatnot. This is going to give you actual miniatures for all the different terrain pieces that are in the game, the various different little temples. Okay, right back here it shows us you get 8 temples, you get 14 cities, you get one of the Delphi oracles, and you get one of the Sparta cities. And these are awesome. We'll take a look at those here in just a second. I'll put this right here. No, I won't. Bear, I know he tells me every time, you put the boxes in front of my face, you block my face, nobody can see me. I know. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry, buddy. Sorry. All right, so we'll put the box right over here. All right, Lords of Hellas. So let's look at the box first. The box is going to have some of that, what do they call it? Kind of like that UV, I think they call it, on the front, where it's going to give you a little bit of fleck when it hits the light. Really, really cool. I don't know if it's showing up very well, but it does kind of show me that it is. But that looks really good. Nice size box you can see here, which is going to be pretty close. I think it's exactly the same size as what the prototype box would have been. I'm not sure if they increased the size of the box or not. It looks to be about the same. All right, we'll open that up, and we will, again, put that right over here, and we'll get into the game. Okay, so the only thing that I've done is taken the wrapping off these boxes. I haven't messed with anything else yet, because I wanted to have this be kind of a pure unboxing of what you're going to find. So you're going to have your little set of cards here, which is going to be from the game. We'll take this little slip off. Come off, please. I try to keep these from breaking because sometimes I like to use them to put them back on the cards. There we go. That's not going to block your face there. You can complain about that. We're going to have pretty much those cards there that list off what the monuments are going to do, the 3 base monuments here in the game, as well as the hunt. We saw that. I'm not going to go over any of the rules or gameplay in this video. If you do want to see that, I have a full videos up on the Lords of Hellas with gameplay and the components. We're just going to look at what we got here for this unboxing. Then we're going to have the enemy cards here. These really turned out super nice. Man, these look good. They looked good in the prototype, but they look even better here in the production version. So these turned out really nice the way they look. I will have Bear load up some video here with some of these components once we do get them out, and we're definitely going to do some video overview of the miniatures, because I know a lot of people were curious on, those resin miniatures you showed were pretty phenomenal. How did the plastic turn out? And I think you're going to be pleased, because I definitely was pleased to see what it looked like. Okay, so here's going to be your punch boards. You're going to have one here for your characters. So you do have the punch boards for the characters here. You'll be able to see with some various chits. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. So for the 4 characters, we do have a board each for each one. Okay. And then we do have our main game board. And I'm going to push this right up here, and let's get this out, because this is a big board. It is a sixer, I like to call it. So you can see, and it is double-sided. So you will see that the board is double-sided, and that's something that we did get added on, I believe, through the Kickstarter. So there are 2 sides to that board, and it is pretty good size, you can see here on the table. And that's one thing I do like about this game. Again, this is a phenomenal game. I would say, you know what, not even think. I'm gonna stick to what I originally said, in the first review, and I still feel this way. It is absolutely the best game, hands down, in this genre. There is so many different things that you can do from a worker placement perspective. Go on quest, upgrade your heroes. There's different ways to win. I absolutely love the gameplay on this game and the mechanics. It really is the best. And I think watching this video years from now and out into the future, Awaken Realms is going to be a force to be reckoned with when it comes to games in the market, because they just keep dominating it every single time. They got this out. They got the new TCG with Siege Storm. They got Nemesis out. I mean, you got Edge. You got all these different games that are coming out into the market, and they're just nailing it with every one of them. So here's the board. The board looks fantastic. I think they did a nice job with the coloring on this board. One of the things that jumped out to me initially was, could they have made the colors pop a little bit more? Because it does have a little bit of a mute look. Not with your blues. I think when you get in here where there's like this sea monster, the Kraken or whatever you want to say it is right down here, I think it looks really nice. The contrast of the grays and the blues pop. It looks nice. Your temples pop and look really nice. The detail on the artwork is really great. When you get into these larger areas with some of the greens and the browns and the reds, it does kind of mute somewhat together. Could they have made it a little brighter and a little poppier? I don't know, maybe. But the color scheme and the way that it looks goes very well thematically with the game. It goes very well with the gameplay. And it really makes the miniatures on the board stand out and look really nice, especially if they're painted up. And when you have games that have fantastic miniatures and you do paint those miniatures, which I will for this game, if the board is really bright and poppy, you lose some of the look of the miniature sometimes. It kind of blends in if the board's real bright and poppy. So having a nice painted miniature on top of a board that is bright enough but not too bright, I think is a good choice. So I would say they did well with the design of this board. So put the board there, and again, the board's got everything that you need to play the game. It's got a spot for every little thing that it needs, for the monuments, and that's another thing I really like. The board can play, and what I mean by that is when you play the game, you don't have a board and then a bunch of cards and a bunch of stuff all over the place. I love the designs where all your stuff is organized like it would be on a playmat on the board. Pay attention out there, game publishers, with that design, because a lot of people just give you the board and then it's like everything else has to go wherever you want. And it's so much easier and cleaner to play a game when you design a board with the areas where cards and other things are going to go right on the board. It just makes it so much easier and cleaner when you go through. Oh, look at that. Take that off and it's just like, boom! Comes right out of there. Okay, we've got our campaign book, because again, there was gameplay that included campaigning. I'll flip through that really quick, you can see. And I like they went with nice, big, large books that went for the whole size of the box. Very easily, you can go through each page. There's your campaign book. Now we've got the game manual. Again, not a lot of... there's not a lot of pages. I mean, that's it. Right? A lot of artwork in there included as well. I think the mechanics of this game are pretty straightforward. There's a lot that can be done, but the game isn't difficult by any means. It should be a pretty quick read and you'll be up and playing. And it does give you quite a bit of detail, I'll say, as you go through the book on various different situations and how the rules play out. So here we got our 4 different characters and the colors that go with those. They're each in their own little baggie here, and they do all have different sculpts. So that's one thing that, you know, was awesome about this one. They could have went cheap and just said, you know, we're going to make every character be the same sculpt. I'll dump 2 of these out here. And every single one of these have a completely different sculpt, these little hoplites. So you can see these green ones look different than the yellow ones. I actually really like the sculpt on the green one. Oh, we got a little head here that fell off one of them. Hate to see that, but does look like a fairly clean cut. And frankly, it may be just an extra. Let's actually, you know what? Since that happened, I'm going to go through here and see. Do any of these missing a head? And yes, this guy right here is missing a head. So he must have had a head cracked off in shipping, which, you know, may happen, may not. But that's a pretty clean crack, and I will be able to super glue that right back on, and you will never be able to tell the difference. So that is, it's always a shame when we find that happen, but that's an easy super glue back on, no big deal. Again, there's a ton of miniatures that are included in this game, and I would expect some of these that are packaged in the bag to somewhat get a little, you know, bent and or cracked possibly. Again, if these do get bent, you can take them and dip them in some hot water. Some people use hair dryers. I wouldn't recommend that. You can really melt the plastic if you do that, if you get it too hot. But you can just take these, put it right in some hot water, get it right where it needs to be, and then very quickly dip it in some ice cold water, and it'll be right where you want it forever. Okay? So that is going to be the sculpts. I'm going to set this one right up here aside because I know I'm going to have to fix that later, and I don't see any other ones that are damaged. So let's look around these bags here just to make sure that wasn't a prevalent issue. Nothing here, and nothing here. Okay, so out of all of these miniatures and all these bags, I just had one little head that was cracked off. I'd say that's pretty good because of the detail of these. You know, these are really detailed little miniatures. Bear, go ahead and load up the video of these miniatures. I want to get in on these, and then we're going to get in on the big ones here as well. They are very detailed little plastic miniatures, and they're not the soft plastic. They are the hard plastic to be able to give you that really rich cut detail, much like we saw in our resin prototype sculpts, and they are really highly detailed. I'm very impressed with the detail that's even on these little sculpts here. So let's get a couple more things here. We do have a bag of the little tokens. I love how they did the tokens. Man, look at these. They're awesome. Every player gets their own color of these little plastic tokens, and they do have little, cut symbols in them as well. We'll see those on the video. You can check those out as well. Those are really awesome. That is an awesome component. I really like these. Very happy with how these turned out. We do have the bases for each one of the characters, and there are some of those those are for the, I believe those are for the wound where you lay on doing the wounds. Those are in there. The die looks great, little red die that's in this bag here. And then there are a couple decks of cards. We'll get all 3 of them. That's everything. So, and I will say the plastic insert I'll show you does have some cutouts here to put that stuff back in, so it's not just all thrown back in. And you can use the bags as well. I mean, there's obviously enough bags. There's extra bags that are included in here too, to make sure that you've got stuff for, you know, all the components. Here is a deck of cards. You're going to need for the game your deck of artifacts right here, and then it looks like you've got some events. Are these all events? No, there's various different types of cards that are here as well for the game. And again, I'm not going to go over any of that stuff. If you do want to see all the components and how those components are used, go check out the review video I did on Lords of Hellas when I had the prototype. So let's get into the goods now. These are the main miniatures that are going to be included in the game, as well as our Mighty Zeus, as well as the rest of the other 2 monuments that are included. We'll get to those here in a second. So I'm going to get out the, let's put our expansion box over here. I'm going to set this box right down over here on top of Siege Storm to get it out of our way, because I want to give us enough room here to look at these miniatures when they come out. because they're so awesome. So here's the first one here. This is pretty awesome. They really did come out nice. Look at that. Look at the Hydra. Look at the Hydra. Man, that looks good. That was terrible. Better. Great sculpting, and the plastic looks good. And if you get in really, really close, and you can see from the video, those little sharp teeth came out pretty well. I was concerned about how those would come out on the plastic, but the little sharp teeth came out pretty good. And again, if you're going to paint these up, you're going to want to take a little razor blade and any little plastic from the molding that might be in there. You can cut that out, paint these up, and they'll look absolutely phenomenal. But just standard miniatures, like in a board game like this, being the retail core box, looking like this, unbelievable. Ah, look at this. This turned out great. That looks great. Now I am going to probably dip, because I think that is probably pushed over a little far. It is supposed to be a little bit more up, and if it's not, I'm going to make it a little further up, because I think it looks cooler kind of pulled up like that. Really shows you that claw on that tail. So I'm going to dip that in a little hot water, pull it up, ice it down, and it'll be ready to go. All right, let's look here. This looks good. This one was an interesting one as well, because this one here had a lot of deep cuts in it when you remember the original sculpt, and this turned out pretty well. I like how this looks, because this one was going to be a hard one because of all the deep cuts that were in this particular mold, but that turned out pretty nice. Oh, here's the Medusa. This is my favorite sculpt out of all of them. This one right here, I think, was just extra special in the way that they went about this sculpt and having this little hoplite sort of wrapped up in her mechanical tail there, and she's sort of ready for the attack. I think she turned out really nice. Her little snakes on the head sculpt here were very, very small, and I think they did a pretty nice job. They came out of the mold pretty well. There might be a few little pieces that I might shave up with a razor blade just to make sure it's cut nice and sharp, because again, anytime you take this plastic out of the mold, there might be, just from the mold a little bit that gets left over. So there might be just a little bit I might scrape off with a razor blade to make sure them snake, coming off the head are nice and tight. But that looks really good, and that's my favorite. I think that is my favorite sculpt out of anything in the entire game. They did such a great job with that one. Here's our Minotaur. The Minotaur came out looking fantastic. This is one, if you remember, had tons of detail in this mechanical arm going down into like the abs and the chest there, and how it sort of rips away and becomes mechanical. I think they did a great job with the face sculpt and the tongue. Everything came out really good. The mouth is really deep, and it does have a nice deep cut all the way down. That tongue goes all the way back with a nice little cut all the way through that tongue. That one came out really, really nice. We'll get up close on these. Be watching the video. We're up close on them, and you can see how nice these came out. This one looks pretty good too. Now I will say, out of all the sculpts, this one here could have been cut or molded a little bit deeper, and I'm not sure why on this one. It looks a little blander, I would say, than what I would have expected on this particular sculpt. And this is the only one out of the whole set, I would say, that I would have liked to seen them do a little bit of deeper sculpting cut on mainly on the front. The big, hammer type weapon that he holds looks fantastic. On the back, there's some like air vents that he's got on the very back of him. Those are cut in very detailed. They look very good. Right in the center chest area looks really nice as well. There's kind of like a little A sort of cut in to the front, kind of at an emblem. That was cut very nicely. It's nice and deep in the mold. But for some reason, the legs and kind of just, I don't know what it is. It feels like it should have more depth to it. It should have been cut a little deeper in the mold. So I'm not sure on this one. Maybe this is just the way they kind of wanted this to look. I think it would look a little bit better if it was a little beefier and a little bit deeper in the cut of the mold. Other than that, it still looks fantastic. And I think when I get this based and washed and painted up, because I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do these. I don't know if I'm going to go with somewhat of like a sun drop effect where it's I'm mainly just going to base them and then wash them and then maybe just brush them with a little bit of color. I may do that because I think thematically it goes really nice with just the look of the game. I loved just the sun drop look that they had when I had the prototype edition that I gave away. So, I'll see. I'll have to see how it looks once it's all painted up and I can see all the detail and everything's being brought out, because there is a ton of detail in this sculpt. Don't get me wrong. That's my one, I would say, criticism on this one, is I think that it could have been cut a little deeper and have a little more contrast in those angles. It would have made this sculpt look a little bit better, where I don't think there's a problem with that in any of these other ones. And specifically this one here, is the same way, but it's just cut very deep, and it really pulls out the contrast of those various different pieces of armor and mechanics on the sculpt here that just gives it a lot of life. Okay, so let's get into the monuments, and again, those are going to come in pieces like we would have saw, and you're going to build those as you put in, there's multiple pieces, right, that all go together. I think the pieces fit together really nicely. That was something that I was concerned about. Would there be warping, and would it be to where these little plastic pieces wouldn't fit together like the resin pieces did? They all fit together very well. They've got really nice, long, secure plugs to hold them in there, but they're not going to be, that's actually holding pretty good, but they do come together and apart really easily. And that's another thing that I was hoping would be the case as you build that monument. It isn't something where you feel like you're like struggling to get it to go together. They do to go together very easily. It's really simple to put those on. And you can see here, if I can get this right, this wraps around like this. And I will put that on there just like that. So you'll see that is on, and this piece here wraps right around like that. And you can get that arm on there and put right in. There we go. And now we've got that monument fully built. And you can just see how awesome Zeus looks there. Just from the prototype, I really think these large monuments came out fantastic in the plastic. Another piece that I was worried about was the actual whip here. And the whip actually came out looking really good in the plastic. There's a ton of detail, a ton of deep cut sculpting. The face sculpt looks great on this Zeus, as well as all of his kind of robe that he's wearing. And he's got some mechanical, which I didn't really realize on the prototype edition. I don't remember this, but he's got like some mechanical look right back here on that sculpt. And then again, those two little areas up front for your priests to sit. And again, the priests have a different sculpt in every single one of these as well, which is pretty awesome. And I love the priest sculpt on Perseus here. This one really, really looks cool. I love the priest on this one. Very, very nice. And, each one does look a little different, but I really like the pre-sculpts from the Perseus here. And those will sit, right in there as they are praying to Zeus and gaining you various different things with the gameplay. So that's how those are going to work. And then we do have the other ones. I will get those out just to show you here. We have our second one here. Looks great. Comes right in the box like that. Again, it's going to be disassembled to start, and then you're going to build those over the course of the game. And then we do have our final here, which is this one here. And this one looks really nice. And this is something different. I don't remember this on the prototype edition either. Here on this one, right in the center, there's like these... Maybe it was there, but I don't remember it. It's kind of like guns with swords on the end that are right in the center of that mold. And I think that is a really nice touch. It just really looks good. It adds a lot to the base of this figure. And then again, this arm is going to go right up top here where she's kind of holding that spear up. This is just a great sculpt. I love the way they did the shield. The shield looks absolutely fantastic. Oh, look at that. Just looks awesome. Looks so awesome. And you can see how big those are in comparison to your normal-sized sculpts, as well as your enemies here that you're going to have in the game. The last thing is going to be, make sure, yes, the last thing is going to be our 4 sculpts of our heroes. And they're going to be included in the bag here, and they do look really good as well. Again, you know, look at that video. We got close up on all this stuff. The sculpts look awesome. I love the Perseus. I think that is absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to get the rest of the Kickstarter stuff, which will be coming later in second wave. This is kind of first wave core set, but I will be getting the Kickstarter stuff in the second wave, and that is going to include the models where they're actually riding. So there is 2 different models, the models where they're just standing, and then the riders. And those are awesome as well. But we got Perseus here, got our Hercules. He turned out looking really nice, just straight up soldier style. That looks really good. We do have Hercules here. I love the Hercules sculpt, and to tell you the truth, I think the final production plastic sculpt of Hercules looks better than the resin prototype. I don't know why on Hercules. This sculpt just came out looking so good. The level of detail on this is absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait to get these heroes painted up. They really went all out on these hero models. The level of detail is amazing. Last one here, Helen, she looks awesome with that cape that's just draping down. They put a lot of look with that cape. The cape really added a lot to this particular sculpt's, you know, look and character. And then she's holding that mighty kind of staff here, which looks really awesome too in that sculpt. And she's got a really good amount of detail. Her face is very, very highly sculpted. It's going to look great when the base and the wash gets on those. They're going to look really good. So that's what it is. Lords of Hellas. Again, that is the core. Everything you're going to get in the core. Look at all this game that you get. Unbelievable. Really quick here, we do have the terrain pack. And I'll just show it like that. You can see here's all of the various different sculpts you're going to get in that terrain, being the little temples that you're going to get over the course of the game you're going to need. This big Sparta city looks great. Here we go, Sparta. That looks really good. Here's the Delphi temple. Looks great. The amount of detail that's cut into this temple, I'm really excited about. And then we've got one of our cities here, and there are quite a few cities you can see. And those came out really nice as well. I was curious about how the little columns would come out. They did come out and are sculpted in there really nicely, so that's really good too. Okay, that is the core box of Lords of Hellas. This is what you're going to get retail. This is what you're going to be able to see out there outside of the Kickstarter. If you were part of the Kickstarter, lucky you, because you're going to get everything that's here plus a ton more. Remember how many miniatures and extra things got added in. There are going to be an enormous amount of expansions. We saw most of those in the Kickstarter, and if you're part of that Kickstarter, you got that sun drop technology, and I hope everybody or most people went ahead and added that sun drop. It was really a cheap add-on for this particular run of Lords of Hellas. I think it was like $20. I don't know. I have to check the Kickstarter, but it was a really low-cost addition to get the sun drop on top of this. So there we go. Lords of Hellas, core box. Get it. Check it out. I can't wait till everybody gets their copy. Post your comments below. Put your pictures out on the Facebook page if you want to when you get your copy and you're playing through. And let me know what you think. So hit that like, click the subscribe below to join the team, ring the bell. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time. Roll up, Chris!